The deck is stacked, and now we're ready for this recession, or are we? Now, knowing that the next move in this war is a global recession, what can you do? Well, over the last 2 years, I've been putting together what I call the new Millionaires Playbook, a guide on how to win this war and create a life of freedom, sovereignty, and abundance, and help redefine millionaire as someone who positively impacts 1 million lives. Now, in this 10 minutes, I won't be able to go through the entire playbook, but what I'm going to do is share the 4 keys that will help you unlock this beautiful future that we actually have the opportunity to co-create.
Dinosaurs ruled the earth for 174 million years, according to scientists. They were constantly evolving from the size of a dog to the gigantic size that dwarfs elephants today. The world has changed substantially since they disappeared. A changing world is nothing new on planet Earth. What is new is the rate of change and the impact it's going to have on you, your business, and your loved ones. Once you have an insight into this dramatic change, then you need to plan on how you're going to deal with the dramatic change that is going to affect every member of Genius Network. This is a subject Gordy Bal has been studying, experimenting with, and perfecting for over the last 10 years. Gordy loves challenging the status quo. In fact, his entire business is built off of it. Gordy is the founder of Conscious Thought Revolution, an organization with the mission of raising human consciousness. Gordy believes that the root cause of our problems as a species is our collective state of human consciousness, and has devoted his life to supporting entrepreneurs and businesses that have identified solutions that support the evolution of consciousness. Over the past 2 years, we've seen the world as we know it change rapidly. We are never going back to normal, and instead are given the massive task of redefining what the new normal is. This is exactly what Gordy is here to talk to you about today. His title is The New Millionaires Playbook. Please help me welcome Gordy Bal.
So as everybody knows, the world has drastically changed over the last 2-3 years. We will never go back to the normal, and business is not as usual. There is a war, and it's not the war in Ukraine or a war on drugs, but there's a war on consciousness. And the next step in this war is a global recession, and we're on the brink of it today. How do I know this? Well, besides going down deep rabbit holes myself, over the last 5 years, I've been invited to different groups of power and influence known as secret societies, and have gotten a firsthand look at how money and power is accumulated and influenced at the highest levels. The key players are not the politicians and the billionaires, but the shadow organizations who control them. What's going on in plain sight is that a deeply entrenched global power system is doing everything it can to preserve and expand its control and power through big tech and big finance. During the pandemic, this foundation was laid out for the next phase of this plan. Between January 20th and January 2020 and November 2021, 4 central banks pumped $9 trillion under the story of stabilizing the economy. 9 trillion. Just to give you an idea how much 9 trillion is, so just 1 trillion, if you were to stack $100 bills for just 1 trillion, you would be twice as high as the International Space Station. So 9 trillion would be 9 times higher than that. So what really happened with all of this money? Well, in the news, we saw stories about historic levels of unemployment, underemployment, financial insecurity, yet we saw the largest wealth transfer in modern history. In the US alone, there's $2.1 trillion for billionaires that amassed more wealth. And secretly, healthcare professionals and experts like this guy became the largest landowner in the United States. The deck is stacked, and now we're ready for this recession, or are we? Now, knowing that the next move in this war is a global recession, what can you do? Well, over the last 2 years, I've been putting together what I call the new Millionaires Playbook, a guide on how to win this war and create a life of freedom, sovereignty, and abundance, and help redefine millionaire as someone who positively impacts 1 million lives. Now, in this 10 minutes, I won't be able to go through the entire playbook, but what I'm going to do is share the 4 keys that will help you unlock this beautiful future that we actually have the opportunity to co-create. Key number 1 is resilience. You need to protect your wealth. As an example, inflation, as most of you may know, is at its highest it's ever been since 1981. That means that if you are, it's at 8.6%. That means that if you are not earning at least 8.6% return on your capital right now, you're actually losing money. Most of us know that the banks aren't our friends, and they certainly don't have our best interest at heart. So the question becomes, how do we create a life and reality that isn't dependent on this broken system? So here's some of the things that I'm doing. For one, I'm diversifying my liquid and illiquid assets based on what's accessible and useful to me and my family. I want to be prepared for the worst case scenario that either a real or a false flag cyber attack may take down the grid. Again, I'm not a doomsdayer, as most of you guys know. I'm an eternal optimist, and we'll get more into this thinking shortly, but I believe in minimizing the downside when there's a clear and present risk. Here are just a few of the ways that I am diversifying and mitigating risk, and you can too.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Precious metals, particularly gold. Precious metals are an excellent investment because they historically beat inflation. While it's a slower and longer investment strategy, they are also a good form of security to preserve your wealth. So what you want to do is have some gold in an insured vault, and have small denominations at home, because worst case scenario, we might actually have to transact in gold coins if things do go crazy, which I wouldn't rule out these days. Next is investing in regenerative land and real estate. Land is something that you can't just keep printing. The government will keep printing money, but you can't keep printing land. And so one of the things that we're doing is looking at regenerative land projects that we can invest in and actually be able to grow food and feed off of the land if we need to. Self-sufficiency. While this doesn't directly affect our financial portfolios, I see investing in self-sufficiency as one of the most important investments of our time. I want to be prepared for the worst case scenario, like I said. So I'm looking at energy through solar, direct water source, permaculture to grow our own food. And I sound like a crazy prepper, but we're actually storing a year's worth of non-perishable foods so that we could survive if things go crazy. And I'm also playing volatility in the cryptocurrency markets while mitigating risk. If some of you may remember, a couple of years ago, I did a talk at GN called Get in the Game, where I shared some of the secrets of how I was using trading bots to generate a profit in crypto. As a matter of fact, I went to my dear friend, Jason Fladlien, and said, "Hey, have you heard of this?" And he politely shrugged me off. And then a few months ago, he has the biggest internet launch in history and makes $58 million doing what? You guessed it, using crypto trading bots to generate substantial profits. I'm just bugging you, Jason. I love you, and I'm so grateful for your friendship. I've since been investing in a company and product called Sigma that has been a secret weapon for me inside of crypto and blockchain. It has been generating up to 1% a week in yield, despite the massive downturn in the markets, and will produce an annual return that will be greater than the rate of inflation. Key number 2 is transformation and using Web3 as a portal for change. As a lot of you may know, Web3 organizations are on the rise and are able to solve unique global challenges that have not yet been addressed. And to simply understand Web3, we must first quickly look at Web 1 and Web 2. Web 1 was the basic HTML, the first iteration of the internet, web crawler search engines, basically read-only. Web 2 has been everything from 2005 to present day, social media, mobile access, really having a more interconnected communication system. And then Web 3 is the new way of money, power, and also where the metaverse is being built and able to process complex information through concepts like the Internet of Things. I won't go too deep down that today. And then decentralization is an aspect of this shifting of power, because it's not going to be a centralized power anymore. It'll be actually decentralized power, which is spreading power and distributing it back to the people. So what does this have to do with the talk that I'm giving today? Well, with decentralized power comes the possibility of redistributing it and not repeating the same patterns that we have in the past. The past system was designed with unconscious and misaligned incentive structures. The new system will allow us to move from win-lose dynamics to omni-win dynamics. And some of you may have heard of buzzwords like DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, and they will be paramount for this paradigm shift. And so we have a unique opportunity to be builders of Web3 and truly ensure it works for all. What am I doing here? Well, one of the things that I've realized as a venture capitalist is that especially during a recession, the best place to deploy capital is into mission-driven entrepreneurs who are actually solving real problems. As most of you know by first-hand experience, entrepreneurs are the most resilient SOBs alive. That's all of you included. And we're wired to weather the storm and find unconventional ways to win, especially when it is for a deeper mission. Right now, the entrepreneurs I'm most interested in supporting and bringing to the forefront are actually to the conversation are women. Why? Because I'm an investor and I look at the numbers. And just in the US, 40% of business are women owned, yet just 2% of VC funding goes to women founders. And 4.9% of all VC deals were women-led businesses. And McKinsey found that companies with the most women in executive positions actually deliver share performance and profits nearly 50% higher than companies with the fewest women. But it's not just about profit. Study after study shows that women leaders are more likely to drive engaged, happy, inclusive, and productive teams. They're also more likely to be role models for the change that they seek. Key number 3, the inner revolution. Focus on MEPS well-being. What is MEPS? It's your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. Often we ignore these vital parts of ourselves for an illusion of productivity and overworking. When was the last time you took a week off to focus entirely on your MEPS well-being? No phone, no email, no tech. If you haven't done it in the last 6 months, put it in your schedule before you leave Genius Meeting. This is the greatest investment you can make. So what am I doing? Well, for the days that I can't focus direct energy on all areas of my MEPS well-being, I found the best technologies that help me do so. Some of the products that have majorly enhanced my life and well-being over the last 2 years are the Aura Ring, which a lot of you are familiar with, Trip, which is a VR app that helps me move from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic nervous system, and also a new product and company that I've invested in called Vessel, which gives you your biomarkers when you simply pee on this strip and then you scan it and it'll tell you all your biomarkers. It's pretty next level. So why is this important in the context of the global power system and the war on consciousness? Because big media is being used to wage coordinated campaigns that fuel division, comparison, outrage, and disharmony for our nervous system. The only antidote to this external control over your biology is to claim direct responsibility for it, which brings me to the last key: power, reclaim control over self. As I mentioned earlier, it's not billionaires or politicians who necessarily rule the world. To see how we are being controlled, we have to look at the many power systems that start at the top, which are behind the scenes. Those at the top of the power and control system use fear and the power to attain their means, and it's trickle down to the masses. And when we're in a state of fear, we don't make good decisions. We operate from a sympathetic nervous system and constantly active, and we're not as open and receptive to love. And what am I doing here? The antidote I've found to being taken over by fear actually comes from this really powerful book that I recommend everybody read if they haven't. It's called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. One of the viewpoints that I learned through here is this distinction between life is happening to me when we're in victim mode to life is happening through me, where we understand that we're an active participant in the unfolding of the universe. And when we're able to come from this place, we're able to co-create the reality we wish to have before our eyes. Simple exercise you can practice around this is think of a situation in your business or life that feels out of your control and not the way that you would like it to be. And then just answer this question. If life is happening through me, what is this situation asking me to do? So to conclude, the 4 keys are 1, build resilience, 2, invest in transformation, 3, focus on the inner revolution, and 4, reclaim your power. If you're interested in diving down the rabbit hole with me more, please reach out. And I will be sharing this new Millionaires Playbook with everybody at Genius. But if you want a copy of it beforehand, just shoot me an email. Thank you.
All righty, Gordy. Well, you look like you're ready to go on an acid trip.
How do you know I'm already not?
Yeah. That's awesome. Speaking of acid trips, can we please bring up Joe Weldon?
Well, Gordy, we go back a long time, and for those of you that don't know Gordy, he's an amazing guy with an unusual spirit. I was watching you during the presentation, and I can't see you virtually what you were doing, but how many are concerned about the future and what's happening with the economy? Raise your hand here. And how about online? Let's see. Gina, what are we seeing? We're getting a lot of hands.
A whole bunch. Let me see here.
A whole bunch.
That's a great job, Gordon.
All right. So let's think about this subject. This is a big subject. You got 10 minutes. What do? He said he's going to talk about 4 things. It took him 3 minutes and 12 seconds to set up the problem, which sounds pretty good if we've got 10 minutes. Then I kept track. When you have 4 things, that's a lot. So I've never heard this before. Gordy was tied up with other things, so this is my first experience like yours. So could you follow it? Yes, it was clear. He had great visuals. He had involvement, and then you did the thing that Gordy loves to do. He added some information. So idea number 1 took 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Idea number 2, 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Idea number 3, 1 minute and 31. Idea number 4, 1:28. So we were condensing, getting shorter. Here's one thing to think of. When you have multiple points, you want to open strong, go to your next point that's the weakest. So let's just say if you had 4 things, number 1 was the most important, number 4 was the least important. You open with number 2, strong. Follow it with 3, 4, and what do you close with? 1. The closing is the key to make the greatest impact, and what are you going to do about it? So that's the goal here. And the closing was he's going to give us this Millionaires Playbook. So think about your presentation. Make it clear, make it impactful, and make the close something that you will do. So hopefully we'll be over to get the food. We know where to eat. Thank you, Gordy. Joe.
Thank you. Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.